and the statement of principles. So thank you so much, and
good morning, everyone. I kind of halfway ad-lib some of my talks, so sometimes I might say something dumb, don't throw anything. And one thing I like to get out front, all of us as libertarians have some strong opinions on things. And I will have some strong opinions, and I'm not meaning ever to offend anyone. It's about ideas, it's not about people. I always have to say that right up front, because you just never know. It turned out there was this girl when I was in the workforce maybe 10 years ago. It turned out she was mad at me for like 5 years because I insulted her car, apparently. And now ever since then, I'm very gun shy about that. So, is this me humming?
I believe it's your laptop speakers catching the mic.
Oh, so what should I do?
Step back 6 inches. Nope. I was wrong. My apologies. I'll take care of this.
Okay. Alrighty, so the name of my talk is Through Which Liberty Shall Prevail. Anyone who does nightly devotionals with the bylaws the way I do will know that that's actually a quote from the National Party bylaws. So there you go, the statement of principles through which liberty shall prevail. I'm going to try to hold the mic up to something to see if it will play here, and if it doesn't, we'll just skip past it. How come that is still saying, let's see. Well, first, I'm not going to go through my, my whole introduction here, because as you can see, like, I'm not very bored. So on LPedia, which is the collaborative history of the Libertarian Party, you could see all the stuff I've been busy with. So if you're interested, check it out. I'm currently the LNC secretary, having taken over from the phenomenal Alicia Matson, who's one of my hero secretaries. I think she's absolutely fantastic. And I am also currently the chair of the Libertarian Party Historical Committee. So that's the current stuff, but there's always a bunch of old stuff. Now, how do I get back to Keynote? 1 second here. Getting old really stinks, because now I got to put my glasses on. Here we go. That's not Keynote. 1 second, sorry. I hate this sometimes. Forget me. Open. This is really odd. Well, I'm just going to go while that's going. So, anyone who's heard me with this talk before has heard maybe some of the same things that I say each time, and it's not that it's necessarily a rote presentation, but it's just true. And there's a story that I like to tell whenever I start these presentations. And I loved it the first time I gave this story when my husband was sitting in the audience, because he thinks he's heard everything. We both work from home, and he now works outside of the home because all I did was talk all day. And no matter what I was doing, it was all day, nonstop, libertarian, and he was just like, that's enough. So, you know, he got his own real estate office outside the office. So I started the presentation, and he's sitting there like, oh, Lord, I'm going to have to hear something like this for about an hour. And I said, I have a confession to make to everyone here in the room. And I said, I'm having an affair. And I've never seen his head shoot up so fast. And then I said, you know what? I go, it's with the Libertarian Party and the statement of principles. And then he was just like, tell me something I don't know. You know, he knew that one quite well. But while that is obviously figurative, it's not too much of an exaggeration. I came to the party in a different way than most, though I think some of us have. I didn't have any libertarians come and teach me about libertarianism. I didn't read Ayn Rand and think it was wonderful. I actually thought it was excruciating. And I liked to debate on Facebook, which I know is shocking. And at the time, I was a rhino, Republican in name only. I was a Republican because I was a Christian. And in Florida, the church I went to, if you were Christian, you were Republican. It just went along with it. There was just no question about it. The minute I started joining that church, I changed my voter registration from Democrat to Republican. But one day I was arguing with some fellow Christians, because they like to argue as much as libertarians do, believe it or not. And we were talking about, there was a thing that went on a few years ago, you guys might remember. where they were putting spikes under the overpasses to keep homeless people from sleeping underneath them. And I was horrified by this. And the Christians, they're probably big Trump lovers now, they just thought it was wonderful. And I didn't have pink hair at the time, and that becomes important because now everyone just assumes I'm a liberal because I have pink hair. But that's usually the nicest. There's other words that end in tard I get all the time. But they were arguing that this was a good thing, and I was horrified. And they told me I'm no conservative, that I must be a liberal. And at that time, to me, you might as well have said, I was Hitler or something, and I was absolutely aghast. And in order to get out of that really quickly, I did what I affectionately call an ass fact, where you just pull a fact out of your ass and wave it around and hope that it helps the argument. And I said, no, I'm not a liberal, I'm more of a libertarian. But I didn't know what that word meant. It just sounded really good. And there had been a point in the past where I once applied a word to myself that I just thought sounded cool, and it turned out to be really pornographic. So I've learned since then to go look things up. So immediately I went to lp.org and opened the platform. I read the statement of principles in the preamble, and the next browser tab I opened, I didn't even finish reading the platform, was the Colorado Secretary of State, and I changed my voter registration on the spot. So it was literally a come to Jesus moment, which is funny considering the context. But I just read it, and it's not an exaggeration to me to say my heart sang. When I read that, I was like, oh my goodness. This put into words things I've always had in the back of my head. And prior to that, I'd never been a political person. I was just, like a Christian, a Christmas and Easter Christian. I was maybe sometimes election Republican, but I had even stopped voting because I thought it was ridiculous, and I took great pride in throwing the ballots into the circular can. So this was quite a change for me. So my husband comes home. He was on lunch break when this happened. And he comes home and I say, hey, I just changed my voter registration. And he's like, to what? You don't even vote. And I said, libertarian. And he was just like, And then we had only just met, and we met online, and I moved out here. We're now married. And all of a sudden, this very conservative, prim and proper Christian girl that he thought he was getting, things turned out a little bit differently. And now he's chair of the Libertarian Party of Colorado, and I always swear it's just so he could see me, because otherwise it just really wasn't happening too much. So this is the reason why the Statement of Principles is so important to me. And let's see now what I was going to do. Let's skip that. That's going to be, What?
Somewhere along the way, our commitment to being the party of principle was replaced by a shallow, opportunistic goal of winning elections now. Any election.
That's okay. I'm going to stop that. That was David Nolan. And David Nolan gave birth to the party. And like most parents, it was agony and ecstasy. He's seen the party, get bad tattoos and nose piercings that he didn't particularly like any parent. And he had written several scolding letters. And that one, I can, shoot you all a link to it afterwards if you're interested, is where he wrote a letter to the LNC because a letter had come out, an email message had come out, and said the most important principle is winning. And he went apoplectic because winning is not a principle. Winning might be a goal, but it's not a principle. And if you make winning your principle, you might as well just join one of the other two old parties because they have the apparatus in place and the corruption already to make sure they're going to win. If we all wanted to be winners, we should have just voted for Trump. So obviously winning is not a principle. It's easy to win. You can pick the worst person in the world and still win. So winning is definitely not a principle. And I do think we need to learn that. And some people get offended at hearing that, and it surprises me. Because I think what they hear is that elections don't matter. No, obviously they matter. We wouldn't be a political party if they didn't matter. But they're not the only thing that matters. There seems to be two waves in this party, people who want to educate only and people who want to win elections only. And that isn't how we were founded. David Nolan was very specific in the founding of the party that it was to be a multi-pronged approach. And people go, why would a political party care about educating? Because the media opens itself up to you when you run candidates, and you get opportunities you don't get any other way. You get opportunities that Cato or Reason or whatever won't get because you're running a candidate. You get hundreds of thousands of dollars of free advertising, that's why. And political party's the best educational vehicle there is out there, and I just don't think people necessarily understand that. So, getting back to the topic, when I had opened that screen and I read the Statement of Principles, it really changed my life immediately. And I find people in the party who actually haven't read it, which surprises me. But I also find people who've maybe been in the party a long time and haven't read it in a while. And again, I make a lot of Christians illusions because I'm a Christian girl. And one thing I learned, like when you go to church, it's different. Reading the Bible is different from hearing the Bible. So I like to start this talk by reading the Statement of Principles out loud. And I ask you all to hear it as if you're hearing it for the first time. Hear it as if you were a Democrat or as if you were a Republican and really had no idea of these types of principles, and realize how absolutely revolutionary it is. I think we've lost our first love, as it said. So, bow your heads in prayer now. Statement of Principles. We, the members of the Libertarian Party, challenge the cult of the omnipotent state and defend the rights of the individual. We hold that all individuals have the right to exercise sole dominion over their own lives and have the right to live in whatever manner they choose, so long as they do not forcibly interfere with the equal right of others to live in whatever manner they choose. Governments throughout history have regularly operated on the opposite principle, that the state has the right to dispose of the lives of individuals and the fruits of their labor. Even within the United States, all political parties other than our own grant to government the right to regulate the lives of individuals and seize the fruits of their labor without their consent. We, on the contrary, deny the right of any government to do these things and hold that where governments exist, they must not violate the rights of any individual. One, the right to life. Accordingly, we support the prohibition of the initiation of physical force against others. 2, the right to liberty of speech and action. Accordingly, we oppose all attempts by government to abridge the freedom of speech and press, as well as government censorship in any form. And 3, the right to property. Accordingly, we oppose all government interference with private property, such as confiscation, nationalization, and eminent domain, and support the prohibition of robbery, trespass, fraud, and misrepresentation. Since governments, when instituted, must not violate individual rights, we oppose all interference by government in the area of voluntary and contractual relations among individuals. People should not be forced to sacrifice their lives and property for the benefit of others. They should be left free by government to deal with one another as free traders. And the resultant economic system, the only one compatible with the protection of individual rights, is the free market. That is absolutely revolutionary. And I think we need to remember that. And I mean that like some people get scared of that word. It's a radical statement, but I mean that in the good sense of the word, not like the Alexandria Cortez sense of the word. Now, when I first discovered this, I'm a paralegal by trade, and I do a lot of what I call forensic document examination. I used to do fraud cases. People lie, the documents don't. Maybe your interpretation of them might be wrong, but the documents don't lie. And eyewitness testimony sometimes could be a little bit fallible, and you have to square it with the documents. So when I was wondering where this wonderful poetry for me came from. So I started doing some libertarian archaeology. I started doing this way before I was involved in the historical project. If any of you believe in any kind of woo, I'm not much of a woo, but there's a little bit of woo going on in this one, the way the confluence of circumstances happens. So this is a work in progress. This talk changes every time as I learn more information. There will be somebody out here in the audience who will have a piece of information that I did not have before, and I probably have pieces of information that you did not have before. And if anything I say you challenge, talk to me afterwards, and I'll give you the backup for it, because I really try not to say anything I can't support, and when it's my opinion, I will tell you it's my opinion. So when I began to work myself back into time to learn about the beginning of the party and this wonderful ideology that we had, I've discovered that even though we're fairly young, important pieces of our history were in danger of being lost. After about a generation, that's what happens. Many people at the 1972 convention are no longer with us. But more alarmingly, and this I think happens in any organization, all libertarians are not angels. Some of it has just been obscured, and in my opinion, some of it has been deliberately obscured. And I had found that the narrative, they say history is written by the victors. History is written by the people who write the history books sometimes. And I had found that what most people had as received wisdom about the Statement of Principles and something we're going to get to called the Dallas Accord was absolutely and utterly wrong. And I know that is a bold statement to say, because as I told you my story, some people assumed I've been around a long time. I became a libertarian on September 17th, 2014, which is the day that Ann Coulter said she would drown any libertarian who was going to vote for Senate or whatever, and I'm remain undrowned. But it was a fortuitous day. So I haven't been that long. But I also have proudly, because I put it to good use, obsessive-compulsive disorder, which I put to good use and do things, I move up really rapidly. So some people still think I'm a government plant because it just happened too fast. They don't realize I'm just obsessed. So as we're you know, you got to work your strengths, right? You know, you're obsessed, put it to good use. So I found out we're literally about to lose a part of our history. I probably should have been a historian. I have a great respect for history. History is what it is. Just like, you know, Ben Shapiro says facts don't care about your feelings, neither does history. I might not like it, you might not like it, but we need to know what it is. And I don't believe in rewriting history, which happens so often. And you risk, to me, you know, that's part of your whole identity. Who are you but all of your past experiences? That's why people with amnesia, all of a sudden, they're completely lost, even though their body and everything is still right there. So I'm going to tell history that some of you may know, but don't get bored, because I am going to tell you things I'm pretty sure, unless you've heard my talk before, that you didn't know. Unless you were David Nolan, and he's not here. Maybe in spirit. Sometimes I felt that way. The first convention of the party took place in Denver, yay, Colorado, in 1972. And it was a really diverse lot of people. There were minarchists, there were anarchists, there were mostly Randians, which we've lost a lot of that, and classical liberals, and nearly every possible permutation in between. And there were like labels they had called us, looking through old LP News that we don't even use anymore. They're just like bizarre. But basically, those were the main ideas. But they were all united, in a way more united than we are now. And this is part of, if you hear me say anything that sounds divisive, know my heart that it's not. I'm saying it to be unifying. And I'll try to get to that, and challenge me if I don't. But they were all united around the idea of radical individualism. And do not be scared of the word radical. You are, now I know within the Libertarian Party you got radicals and moderates, but just take all the libertarians, we are all radicals to the outside world. You know, leave the intra-party, you know, fights amongst itself. That's not how I mean it. I don't mean it factional. The Libertarian Party was founded as a revolutionary movement in politics, no less revolutionary than the American Revolution, except that it was to be peaceful, and it was to be through peaceful processes. But it is a revolution nonetheless. Remember, the people who did the American Revolution had nothing to lose. People who have nothing to lose change the world. And I think part of our problem is we're now acting like we have something to lose, and we don't. If we want to change the world, we need to get back to having nothing to lose. My particular opinion. You know, to me, the zealous nothing to lose 2% change the world. And any current perspective today that does not come to grips to what the early party actually said and stood for is doing the equivalent of cutting off the branch upon which they sit. It is absolutely suicidal, and it's doomed to fail. So make no doubt about it. Libertarianism was then, and it remains now, a radical, revolutionary movement if we are going to be true to its guiding philosophy. Now, that's the nugget, isn't it, if you're going to remain true? We know, again, sometimes things do not remain that way. We look at our country, right? What we are now, the founders would have just, had a cow and a half if they've seen what we've done. They thought they protected it with the Constitution. They didn't. So some party founders were concerned that there would be entrenched interest, it's politics, there would be cults of personality because it's libertarians, and they would come in and inevitably our principles would be watered down, mostly through petty infighting or we can win this now if we only shove this behind the bush type of thing. And there would be power struggles, and that this fresh, revolutionary, radical movement would turn into an also-ran footnote in history like so many other idealists before us. And they were determined that that would not happen. There was someone that I wish was here today. His name is D. Frank Robinson. He is also one of the founders of the party. David Nolan's one of the famous, he's the primary founder, but don't underestimate D. Frank Robinson, who is still with us. And he was in Oklahoma, and there was someone also named Ed Carlson. So D. Frank Robinson and Ed Carlson devised a devious plan, or plots and schemes, as Terry would say. Those are the same thing. So they devised this plan to protect the party. And this is the way they word it. And I know some people will get uncomfortable because they go, oh, you guys treat it like a religion. In a way, that's not so bad. It's a philosophy of life. Any philosophy of life you have is your metaphysics, which is essentially a religion, which is why I say even atheists have a religion. It's your guiding philosophy of life. It doesn't absolutely require a God, in my opinion. So they decided they were going to put a catechism, an article of faith into the party, that they would embed it into the party, and so that it could not be altered without not only a super majority, which a lot of us are familiar with, like when you call the question 2/3, that's not super though, that's just super, but also a super quorum. And most people don't realize that. And when they realize it, they're like, uh-huh. So this was approved by the original Constitution, Bylaws, and Rules Committee. They did have a constitution at that time. And as D. Frank Robinson relates it, he realized that when it came to Roberts, this was heresy. You never tie the hands of the future impossibly if you want to be in good parliamentary form. And he was like, screw good parliamentary form. We're not here to be a parliamentary organization. We're here to be a principled organization. And if we don't stick to our principles, there's no reason for us to be here. Roberts be damned, basically. And I know that's just causing all the priests of Roberts, me one of them, just to, go, ooh, but that's true. So that thing of Roberts is only important when the survival of the organization qua organization is important, rather than the organization actually meaning something as an existentially ideological organization. So he believed it wasn't the organization that needed to survive, it was the principles, which were the sine qua non of the party, not the mere existence of some hollow shell that happened to call itself the Libertarian Party, but bore no resemblance to the early party. So David Nolan and the founding convention delegates, they became convinced of the wisdom of this idea. And as Robinson described it, and I can't say it better than him, he really has a way with words, he said the intent was, quote, to plant a rhetorical stake in the ground with a tether, the statement of principles, a terse, one-page document declaring to all coming after us, this is the anchor and the lifeline. Do not tread too far from it or you may perish. If you stay close, you may eventually prosper for your efforts. And this is exactly what the 1972 convention did. They passed a Declaration of Principles. It was originally called the Preamble, which sometimes confuses people. It didn't become known as the Statement of Principles until the 1974 convention. And they debated it, they adopted it, and they secured its continued survival by demanding that it could only be amended by 7/8 vote, which is the super majority of registered delegates at convention. I said something there, though, that might have gotten past you. It wasn't a 7/8 vote. It was a 7/8 vote of registered delegates at convention. That's different than just a 7/8 vote of whoever happens to be in the room. There isn't 7/8 of registered delegates ever on the floor at any one time at convention. I've never seen it happen. So you could take what I call the Dumb and Dumber, if you've seen that movie with Jim Carrey approach, where he asks the pretty girl, will you ever date me? And she's like, yeah, 1 in a million. He's like, I've got a chance. So some people take that approach with the statement of principles. Yeah, theoretically, it's not impossible to amend. Yeah, it is. Theory be damned. Try it. Okay, I'm one of the most determined, obsessed people on the planet, and I don't think I could get it changed. Though then it starts to give me a challenge, right? So basically, it's the parliamentary equivalent of saying, too bad, so sad, you can't change this. And this wasn't by accident, it was by design. Now, what is amazing, though, is that the Statement of Principles, the original one, which is not this one, we'll get to that, passed unanimously. I think there were 78 delegates in 1972, and they were rip-roaring. I mean, we're rambunctious enough now, and I can't imagine hardly anything passing unanimously. But that group, they passed it unanimously, and I don't know if anything like that's ever been done before. But this is the intention. If at least 1/8 of delegates believe in the foundation vision of the party, then the game is over for any takeover. If you cannot get 1/8 of delegates to stand on our principles, the party, as founded, has already dead. And that vote is just the formal declaration of its demise. And that is how it's intended. It's a depth charge, it's a self-destruct mechanism, it's a booby trap. But the initial founders realized that this was serious. What they were doing basically was building a vault, stepping inside, and then destroying the key, so you could never get out of it. And although they thought it was a wonderful idea, they realized that that was a real heady time. And they decided they would give themselves a 2-year cooling off period. Sometimes with contracts, how you have 3 days that maybe you could, get out of them because, you're all dazzled by the encyclopedia salesman or whatever it was. They gave themselves 2 years so that they could think about it in 1974. When they came back, they could say, that's a terrible idea, and scrap it. They could say, that's a little bit too spicy, a little bit too radical, we could water it down. They could do anything they wanted for a one-time chance of a 2/3 vote. And after that, the 7/8 would lock into place, and that would be the end. So what did they do in 1974? Well, those rascals, they didn't scrap it, and they didn't water it down. They actually made it more radical, because figures, it was libertarians. And this becomes really important. Let's see here. Okay, so we're going to get into a little bit of, as I said, bylaws devotionals. Up here is the original bylaws of the party that talks about the platform. And you can see at the end there's that little 1974 provision. But notice what it says. The enduring importance of the Statement of Principles requires that it shall not be amended by a vote of less than 7/8 of the delegates at a regular convention, except at the 1974 convention only, which it could be amended by 2/3. If you look at the section above it, there comes the title of my talk. The Statement of Principles of the platform affirms the philosophy upon which the Libertarian Party was founded, by which it shall be sustained, and through which liberty shall prevail. That language has not, one word of it might have changed, but this article has remained substantially unchanged for 50 years, except for deleting that 1974 language, quite obviously. This is the current one. And it still says pretty much the same thing. This is what the platform has, and it's, through which liberty shall prevail. Most people do not know that's in the bylaws, and it becomes very, very important. So we'll get to the rest of that in a minute. All right, come on now. And I do think it's remarkable it hasn't substantially changed, because one thing I figured out about libertarians, and we did this even last convention, and Mr. Bishop Henchman's going to laugh as he's in the room. Whenever there's a list in a bylaw that says, comma, 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 1 year we want to make it 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 2 years later we want to make it comma, comma, comma again. I don't know what it is, but we do that all the time. I think that needs to be prohibited, quite honestly. And we did that last convention, and we're doing it again in Colorado, and I'm just ready to eat my own foot. Oh, God, these glasses just kept. All right. So what is important? Well, I'm not going to go back. That whole thing about the through which liberty shall prevail, upon which we were founded, through which it will be sustained. There is something we hear commonly today, and that libertarianism can't be defined. Don't be a purist. You're the only right libertarian. Libertarianism can't be defined. Now, that might be true to extent to small L libertarianism, but we aren't small L libertarians. The fact is that big L libertarianism can be defined. Our bylaws define it. Anyone who claims that big L libertarianism cannot be defined is either ignorant or misleading you. Most people are just ignorant of it, because very few people are misleading, but you never know. There's all types. So don't ever allow that. It's not true. That doesn't mean if you disagree with a portion, you're not a libertarian. We need to separate our personal identities from the party identity. The party as an entity believes something. I don't agree with the party on everything. I'm pro-life. Party's not. I deal with it. I don't get this weird thing with people where if you tell them they're not in line with the party platform, they act like you just ran over their dog and backed up over the dog again. Why is your identity so wrapped up in that? Why is that such a cutting thing to you? That is really bizarre to me. So what? The party disagrees with me. As far as I'm concerned, the party's wrong on abortion. Maybe one day it'll get it right. But I live with it. There's a few other heresies I hold, but I'm not gonna tell you what they are. So we're defined by our statement of principles. Now, there's a phrase that's misused, and crap. I'm like Cosmo Kramer. I'm very like a physical performer. There's the big tent. I'm sure we've all heard about the big tent. Now, I believe in the big tent. But the way people use that word today, it's the big top and not the big tent, because they act like anything goes. And, if you say you're a libertarian, and no matter what you believe, it's a libertarian belief. We do have a big tent, but tents, as you'll note, have panels. There is an inside the tent and the outside the tent. It's not completely wide open. So what defines the boundaries of our tent? The statement of principles. But it defines ideas, not people. Just because a person might be outside the tent on one thing doesn't mean they're not inside the tent on another. What? Oh my God, I got a lot more. You can't. You got to give me a tiny bit more. Okay, sorry. I'm going to speed up here. Okay, so I'm glad we got that through. So in 1974, we're going to get to where I think, so the statement of principles is you can challenge a platform plank on it. Everything is judged by the statement of principles, basically, and we will not go through that. So in 1974, they changed the statement of principles. It's the only time it's been changed. And as I said, did I do that again? What am I doing wrong here? It's freezing up on me again. Well, the only thing, the things that were changed were subtle, but very profound. So what happened in 1974 is that there was a dispute between the party anarchists and the party monarchists, and the party was in danger of splitting. And they decided to broker a peace agreement that is called the Dallas Accord. Now, if you have heard the received wisdom today, you will have heard that it's a nice idea, and it was an informal agreement amongst the people in 1974, but it has absolutely no binding authority upon us today. That's not true. That is categorically not true, and I can prove it to you. What is the one thing that's the most serious thing to amend in this party? The statement of principles. What was amended at the time of the Dallas Accord? The statement of principles. If you're going to hold that the Dallas Accord is not binding, it's the same as saying basically that the Statement of Principles is not binding, because I'm going to pull up here. I did a little highlighted thing of the changes that took place in 1974. I'm not sure anyone else has been obsessed enough to do this. Everyone says, where's the Dallas Accord written? Right there. That's the Dallas Accord. It was in writing, and it is binding. All of those yellow changes are the Dallas Accord changes. And we're going to go through them quickly so you could see how subtle but important this happened. And it's very important for us today, because these battles today between party anarchists, minarchists, whoever it might be, are dumb. They be very dumb. And they be absolutely against the Statement of Principles. Neither side should be trying to alienate the other. The party itself is agnostic on the position of the existence of the state in Libertopia. The party takes no position on it. Right now, we have to deal with what we have, and there is a government now, and we need to mitigate damages. Okay, so if you notice there in the third paragraph, the original Statement of Principles said, the sole function of government is the protection of the rights of each individual. That changed to where governments exist. Now, most people know about that change, and they think that was the extent of the Dallas Accord. I used to think that. That's actually one of the more minor changes that happened in the Statement of Principles. But it did make government optional. But here is where it gets very, very interesting. Let me go here to my notes. 1 second. Okay, All right. We all know the difference between positive rights and negative rights. Usually as libertarians, a positive right is like you think you have a right to health care. Someone else has to provide it for you. A negative right is something that you just are owed non-interference. The original Statement of Principles assigned a positive role to government. It said the government should do something. It should protect rights. The 1974 amendments turned that on its head and assigned only a negative role to government. The government must not do something. It must not violate rights. Because the core of the dispute was, does the monopoly on the enforcement of laws violate rights? So these are very profound and substantial changes that I think we need to appreciate in order to bring more unity back to the party. I believe in, and my whole goal in all of this is I believe in, Harry Brown wasn't the one who invented it, but he popularized it, of the train, right? We're all going in whatever direction, and some of us will get off before others, but we should all pull together as one until we reach wherever we feel like we want to get off. And you know, it doesn't walk on all fours, obviously, because it's an analogy, but I think it's a good one. But I'm finding today, I have found that people today go, no, we can't work together because our destinations are too different. That will tear apart the party. Absolutely tear apart the party, because if the differences between the minarchists and the anarchists are too different, such that one train's going to New York and one's going to California, well, what about the classical liberals and the minarchists? Is one of them going to Colorado? How fine are we going to parse this? The fact is the differences between us are probably less than 5%, and it is absolutely self-destructively, mind-numbingly stupid to divide over it now. Maybe in the future as I said, if we reach minarchy, I'm personally an anarchist, I would get another hobby, because that would be pretty good. And I think we need to stop doing that, and we personally need to not take it so personally when someone says your particular idea doesn't fit in the Statement of Principles. Maybe it's wrong. Respect the party for what it holds, and not subsume it into your whole identity. And I think if we do that, we'll be a whole lot more charitable with each other and not have these stupid little power struggles to try to change the platform this way or that way. One thing I said when I was on the platform committee in Colorado, and I actually said it on national, our job as the platform committee is not to make the platform something we agree with, because we might not agree with the party. It's to make it something that agrees with the statement of principles and helps bring us forward. It's not to hide the ball and water things down. It's to be true to what the party believes, even though we personally might hold a little less. As I said, I have my heresies. There are certain laws that I actually believe in as an anarchist. My head hasn't exploded yet. So, in closing, so that Mimi can have it back, I have a million examples of party history. I am passionate about party history, and in every group I find there's someone else who gets the spark lit under them too. If you're interested, come and speak with me. I would love to invite you to become involved in the History Project. It's a collaborative project that requires all of us. You know, Wikipedia has notability requirements. Our notability requirements on LPDA were you a libertarian for 1 second in your life? You're notable. We want your history. All of you have history to add to LPDA, and we need it because we are losing, absolutely losing our history, and it's precious. So come and speak with me, and I will put you to work as much as you want to, or as little as you want to. And I thank you very, very much. And my last pitch will be that I am regretting wearing these long nails. I see one that's down there on the ground. If you see nails around, I'm sorry. I know it's kind of gross. The Historical Committee project is self-funded. We have a budget, but we always try to fundraise for it so that it doesn't take away from ballot access or anything like that. If you think it's important to preserve our history, I ask kindly that you earmark a donation to the Historical Committee. And for a $50 donation, we have some cool t-shirts for you. So just come and see me. But if you can't do that, if you'd just like to work with it, work with the project, it doesn't matter what your ideology is, it doesn't matter if you absolutely disagree with me, we are all part of this. So I invite you to do so, and I thank you so absolutely very much. It is the biggest honor in my life to be able to do what I'm doing now, going from convention to convention and speaking about my first, well, I want to say my first love because then Wayne will get upset, but my documentary love, and to put my talents to use for the party. And come talk to me afterwards. Thank you so much. I hope you have an awesome rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Karen Ann. That was really great. I have a quick announcement. I've been told that some of you didn't want to take the new badge. You just took the ribbon. In order to vote, you have to have the badge that says Sunday. So look at your badges, make sure they say Sunday, and if they don't, they've got your badges out there that say Sunday. But the tellers are going to be looking at the badges to make sure you have Sunday, and you can't vote without them. So if everybody could look at your badges just real quick. I'm not going to look at everybody's, but the tellers will, so. I can't hear you. What? They can all vote today, but you just have to have the new badge that says Sunday on it, which is out in the, if you don't have it, it's out with the credentials people outside. But yes, you can vote both days, you just have to have a separate badge. I'm sorry? I know that we're going to give it a few more minutes, especially because I just found out they were giving out just ribbons instead of the new badges because people didn't want a second badge. And so that's why I'm making this announcement. Hey, everybody. We're not coming to order yet, but I just got something really exciting told to me. We have a generous donor who is donating $1,000 to the party for 5 people only to get their lifetime membership today for $800. This is a huge deal. It's $200 off. So if you want to be a life member, please talk to somebody and you will get one of these really pretty pins. So 5 people only, first 5 people, life membership. And you can see Steve Haug, the treasurer. Find him and buy your life membership today. And by the way, Steve Haug is the generous donor. He's giving his own $1,000 to help 5 libertarians in this room get a lifetime membership. Thank you, Steve. Is there a way to flip back that microphone for this microphone? Okay. And once again, if you don't have Sunday on your badge, make sure you go out and see the credential committee to make sure you have Sunday on your badge.
There we go.
first order of business to do the credentials report, and so it has to close before we do the credentials report. It's just, it has to. Because if it doesn't, we let more people in, we don't know how many people are voting. Okay. Okay, anybody that wasn't here by that cutoff, unfortunately, is not going to be able to be credentialed this morning because we got to get going. Okay. There's a line.
May I ask another question?
I'm gonna ask a question to the body. There's a line back there. Can we extend another 2 minutes? Yes. I can't hear you.
This is my 15th convention, Madam Chair. And it's the first time I've ever heard of credentialing ever being closed. And I'm curious, and I apologize for being late. Would you please forgive me?
No,
Why is credentialing being closed? Is there a reason for not having voted?
because once they do the credentials report, that gives us the numbers for how many people we need for each type of vote. So for instance, when we get to platform or yesterday bylaws, it's the number of votes needed are based on the credentials. So
you take a count at certain points of time,
correct, but in between those counts at certain points of time,
then you make sure people can't vote.
they can still register, but it won't be counted, so they can't vote, so they can't get their badge.
Okay, so this is a limitation to voting. It doesn't seem honest, and I'm not sure why the body would want such a...
I'm going to defer to the parliamentarian who's looking it up furiously.
Well, I understand the parliamentarian, I understand the secretary and the way she likes to run things for control and limitation. But what I'm wondering is does the body want to limit voting?
Show up on time
Or else? I know that attitude.
Okay.
Attitude I hear a lot of.
I'd like to let everyone know how many people are here. Have we called to order?
We haven't called to order.
Then I don't have a report.
We're waiting for,
I mean, instead of being in line credentialing, here's the microphone. I think I'd rather credential, but I think I just heard that I can't. Even though I've been in line. I don't know.
well, the body just did actually, but. Okay,
At some point,
I see I still have the chair. I still have it.
I'm gonna ask, did they bring us the number?
I already have the number.
Huh?
I have the number and I have everything.
No, the body just said the people that were currently in line.
Yeah.
Oh, you know how many people are in line?
Oh, no, I don't know. I know there were 2 back there. I don't know how many are currently. It looks like the numbers. It looks like the number's growing.
That's why they just said 2 more minutes to let the people in line. So can I have them just bring you however many sign in right this second?
We're going to have to recount because the names don't, you know what I mean? It's not like a new list.
It's not a new sheet.
Yeah.
You gotta recount them.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do.
I do.
Make an announcement.
Hi, everyone. We have 132 people, and more people are being added. People are coming in late. It's almost an hour. If anyone here is able to, after we call them to order, make a motion to update credentialing, that's up to you. So we could go ahead and get started and then kind of fix a credentialing report if someone wants to actually be bold and do that. And then I don't get accused of obstructing business, and I also don't get accused of keeping people out of voting. I'm in a difficult situation, so if someone wants to step up and help me move business forward while also including everyone to vote, that would be great, and I would really appreciate it.
You can go back and get we are going to. Okay. Okay, before I hit the gavel, I'm going to say that what we're going to do
I'd like to make a motion.
We are not in
As soon as
order.
the law- Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for instructions.
Oh, you are, okay.
It's taking
Did
a
you
long
find
time for
anything
somebody to
from
just tell me whether
Parliamentary?
I should be at the mic making arguments or in line.
In line.
In line.
In line.
In line.
Under Robert's, credentials can set a reasonable time for cutoff for them
Yeah.
to make the reports and let business start.
Okay, well, I'm going to do,
Okay,
okay,
so I'd like to make a motion from the floor to,
give me 2 seconds to call
okay.
to order, please.
okay. That we were-
The meeting is called to order at 9:58, and I see somebody at the microphone.
Oh, I was gonna.
We're calling to order now, so
Okay.
we're live, so you
Okay.
can make a motion.
Okay, so I think the line is almost done in a minute or two. As soon as the line is finished, I'd like to make a motion to close the credentialing so we can vote on the chair and then reopen it as soon as it's over.
So what is your motion?
Motion is to close the credentialing so we can vote on the chair as soon as this line ends and about 3 more people.
Okay.
And then as soon as that's done, we can open after the vote, we can open the credentialing up again, which is
Okay.
procedure.
Does this take a standing?
Is that okay, Angela?
That's,
Is that what you want?
that's not up to me.
Okay, so this is going to be an amendment to the agenda.
Oh,
So therefore, we need a standing second. We need 10, how many people do we need to
Would you say
stand?
130?
We have 132, so
That's what you wanted, right?
We need 14 people to stand for a standing second.
Okay.
Point of inquiry,
Yes.
isn't that motion out of order since credentialing automatically occurs?
I believe it's an amendment.
You're amending to close credentialing, you're closing credentialing.
Okay, let me rephrase.
He's extending time for credentialing rather than calling to order and getting on with orders of the day. So orders of the day are we proceed. So
Okay, go ahead.
extending time for credentialing before we get on with the orders of the day. So it's like an extension of time.
Okay, so this is essentially an extension of time. First, there's somebody at the microphone, and after that, Mr. Starr.
Yeah, I'd like to just offer a friendly, I guess, amendment, and that would be to update credentialing once the line is done. No closing, no nothing like that with credentialing.
And I think that is, let's do this. I think I got it down. Okay. We have been called to order. We are going to start with the credentials report with the people that are currently credentialed. Then we will entertain the motion to have an updated credentials report when the line is done. Okay. So, can we have the initial credentials report, please?
Without further ado, we have 132 delegates present. We require 66 for a majority. We require 87 for a supermajority. We require 13 for a standing second. That is the end.
Okay, so was there a motion that was going to be made? Orders of the day. Yes. I understand that. So, okay, I'm just going to step this back a second. What we determined that we were going to do, if somebody would like to make this motion, is that we make a motion to re-credential when the line is done so that we can start the orders of the day. How?
We can do speeches and get on with the details and re-credential.
And just to be clear,
But no updates
this
can make.
this will mean that we can start the business of the day, but before any voting takes place, we will have finished our credentialing, and it will be updated.
Point of information, what is the business of the day before election?
Chairs, the first order of business is the chair election.
Nominations.
No nominations for chair.
We can do speeches, we can do nominations.
So we can do the nominations from the floor, we can do the speeches. Before we go to a vote, the people in line right now, if somebody is making this motion, the credentials will be updated. Okay, I need a standing second of 14 people. Okay, and this This is a motion to suspend the rule. No, this is a motion to amend the agenda to re-credential after we finish after these people are finished in line. So we will have one additional credentials report before we vote. We have the second. Is there any discussion? Oh, wait. Is there discussion?
I just want to I'd like to just make a recommendation that instead
There's already somebody at the microphone. He has the floor.
I recommend instead that you go through the chair's speeches, have the nominating speeches, and then you do your next credentials report.
That is what I just said.
No, actually you said after people went through line. So let's just...
Okay. Okay. So the motion has been made, and we've had a standing second that I believe was to have an additional credentialing report before we go to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion passes. So at this point, I'm also going to ask the body a question. Does anybody object to our former chair, Mr. Brown, taking the gavel? Hearing no objections?
Has anybody used the gavel yet this time? There we go. Okay. Well, it's good to be back, and I wanted to say that I'm observing so many, and I'm glad to see so many new party members, activists, and party leaders since I left here. It's fantastic. There's so many new people here. And I was just elected chair 4 years ago, and even 3 years ago or 2 years ago, whoever heard of some of the people that are going to be elected to office today? Whoever heard of Mimi Robson or Robert Imhoff or Brent Olson or Steve Haug or Angela McArdle or Justin Quigley or Paul Vallandigham, or so many people that were not even active a few years ago and are active now. We have such a great upward mobility in the party for those that are willing to work hard and promote liberty. And so let's just get more people in and get them active, because that's the vital thing to grow our party. But don't forget the old timers, though. You newcomers, don't forget the old timers. Always ask for advice if you can from people like Mark Hinkle, Joe Dean, Gail Lightfoot, and those people have been around the block a few times and know where all the bodies are buried. So anyway, it's time for the election for chair, and I understand there's 3 candidates, and that means this is an organization that a lot of people think is worth chairing, and I think that's certainly the case. So we'll see what happens. The procedure is, for the nominations, each candidate is allowed 1 nominating speech and 1 seconding speech for a total of 5 minutes. And, okay. 1 nominating speech and 1 seconding speech for a total of 5 minutes, and then each candidate will have up to 10 minutes to speak. So usually the way we do it is we'll have all the nominating and seconding, and then after that, then all the candidates would go one right after the other, unless there's any objection to that. We also need to decide what order the candidates will speak, but of course we'll do the nominations first, though. So nominations are open for the office of chair. Please come forward. Nominations are from the floor. And if there's a timer for the 5 minutes. Okay. No, the 5 minutes is for the nominating and seconding. Yeah, they'll give your speech. Yeah, the nominating and seconding speech for up to 5 minutes. Okay, we can do it that way.
Only name?
Yeah, just names.
Okay, I nominate Robert Imhoff.
Okay, is there a second? Okay. Okay, next.
I nominate Joshua for chair. Thank you very much.
That's Joshua Smith, correct? Yeah. Okay, next.
I nominate Mimi Robson.
Okay. All right. Are there any other nominations? All right.
I'd like to second the nomination for Mimi Robinson for chair.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. Now, the question is, how does the body wish to do it? We can have the nominating, seconding speech, and the candidate all together, or do the nominating and seconding speeches and then all the candidates together. So, your preference.
The second one.
Okay. So, let's start with the nominating and seconding speeches then. Well, for the speeches, no, but for the candidates, yes. Okay. So, let's start with the first nominee, Mr. Ham.
Is there a time limit?
5 minutes for you and the seconder together.
Okay. Is there a seconder? I don't know if there is one.
Actually, seconder join the nominator so you guys can not waste any time there.
Okay, well, I'll get started. My nomination for Robert Imhoff is because we have a lot of experience together. We started on the, well, he started on the executive committee before I did a couple years back, and my experience with him was really good. He taught me a lot of things, and I see him as a influential guy, a positive guy, a very effective guy for the job of chair. Most of us know him as our technology guy because he's worked on websites, on the IT databases and stuff like that. He helped us in Ventura County, for example, with the Nation Builder system. It's also a website and the CRM system that we use. So his experience and his help for the counties, like us in Ventura County, has been super relevant to what we do as libertarian activists, because the Nation Builder tool is something that he knows and something that we need. I think the whole state could benefit from that. And he's continued helping with us with stuff like that even after he was no longer working with the executive committee. I think he's only working now in Santa Clara with his local county, but he still reaches out to us. So he's definitely committed to libertarianism in California and to the party. I've been also observing what he's been doing in Santa Clara County, which I think is very cool. Their work with the city council issues there. The campaigns, the campaign that his wife did. His wife is the chair there, but he's very active there on, I'm not sure which committee he's working on, but I can see his influence there. Robert and I have talked about his plan and his goals for his chairmanship and for the state party, and I think he's going to talk about that a little bit more, but I support it. I've been looking at the state party from the position of delegate, member of a local party, and on the executive committee as an at-large member, and so I'm thinking about the issues just the same way as he is, and I can see that what he is proposing is what we need: membership goals, financial goals, realistic goals, that and a plan to get those things done. So in a nutshell, I'd like to say that he's a known entity. He's been around for a long time. He's got relevant experience. He's held positions of responsibility. And he's successful and he's consistent. And I'll yield my time. I don't know who's next.
Okay. Is there a seconding speech for Mr. Imhoff? Okay, no seconding speech. We'll move to the nominator for Joshua Smith. And please identify yourself.
All right. I think there was going to be somebody before me. No.
Okay.
Sorry, my name is Ryan Lopez. I'm from Los Angeles County. I'm nominating Joshua Smith because you know, he's just an amazing guy. He has experience building county affiliates. He's current at-large in the LNC. He has many local, state, national connections in the LP, as evidenced by his numerous endorsements he's received. More than anything, he's proven his leadership through his dedication and his hard work over the years. And you know, he's proven to me personally his leadership by reaching out to me, reaching out to a lot of us actually, and sharing his vision and actually asking for help to, you know, with his projects and bringing them to fruition. You know, in fact, I think, you know, Josh, from a personal standpoint, Josh and Angela McCardle are some of the only people that in recent times that have really reached out to us and to me personally for help and inclusion moving the party forward. They're the only ones that I've seen actually lining up teams, setting up events, getting things done, generally sharing, showing up. It's amazing how just showing up creates a environment for success. Showing up, participating, going out there. Just being part of the community. So in my opinion, that's what a leader does. That's how you show leadership. You get down in the trenches, you lead by example, and that's why I believe Josh is the right person for this position. So I'm giving my endorsement and to Josh, and would like to have everybody consider him for LNC the chair of the party of California.
Okay. Is there a seconding speech for Mr. Smith? Yes, sir. And quite an entrance here. Mr.
All right. You guys can hear me? My name is Todd Kuski. I'm currently the chairman of LA County. I've been the chairman for the past 5 years, and I've sat on the executive committee here in California for about 2.5 years. One term and one completing a term. I am here to give a seconding speech for Joshua Smith. Joshua Smith is someone who is able to lead with conviction, is somebody who is not easily bullied, and is unapologetic. I've had Joshua on my TV show up in Sacramento, the Libertarian Counterpoint, and was able to maintain a very interesting and engaging political conversation. Got a lot of views. Everyone loved that episode. Someone who's always able to do this. A lot of people think that the chair of the political party is the leader of the party. The chair is not intended to be the leader. While sometimes the face of the party, the chairman's responsibilities is to maintain order. Their job is to make sure that the meetings happen on time, the rules are enforced, and that we don't have complete chaos when we're trying to create liberty here. Josh is someone who's able to do that. So and that's pretty much all I really have to say. That should be enough to make a very, very clear statement, is that he is somebody who can do this unapologetically. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, nominator for Mimi Robson.
I would ride that if it's a bird scooter, but those things I don't have that. So this is Jeff Hewitt, and I'm up here to nominate Mimi Robson. I'll tell you why. I first got in this party in 2014. There was a very, very contentious fight for chair at the time. Kevin Takanada had been in there. He was the incumbent. We were able to get a guy like Ted Brown come in and take the party from complete dissension into a lot more of unity, and for that I'd like to thank you, Ted. You took us to a next stage. Well, thank you. And more recently, a little tiny gal, vertically challenged, came up, and I said, "Wow, who's she?" And she has grown as chair in a way that I can't even imagine. She's very accessible. She's strong when you need to be. She's very fair. These are all things that are very important for a chair of a national party. But I'll tell you what, she has, every time I talk to her, and this is the only complaint I have, I try to get it down to an hour, and that's an hour I'll never get back. You know what I mean? But she is that way. That shows what kind of commitment she has to this party. And I can't wait to give her another chance to take this party, because I've got a whole lot of people that want to flip from both parties. And we need a party that is going to grow and grow and look big, and let's have these problems more often. I think it's great that we have 3 serious contenders. But I'm throwing my support behind Mimi, and I hope you will too. I will go ahead and let Steve say the rest, the seconder.
Okay, seconding speech.
Hi, I'm Steve Haug. I've been the state treasurer for the last 2 years. When I showed up, I was just really thankful that Mimi showed up before I did. When I got here and I looked at the mess, I said to Mimi, "This isn't a political party, it's a social club." And she said, "No, it's a dysfunctional social club." There wasn't anything that was working. There were things that were just plain missing. So we spent the better part of the first year just putting things back together. Getting due sharing working so we could push money out to help the affiliates so they'd have their money. She did the first pass at that, spent hours calculating all this stuff manually. So when the first batch of checks went out, she put that together. She's been doing fundraising behind the scenes, which is why we have $65,000 now in our checking account. We've done more fundraising. So what's going to be coming in today and after we pay off the convention, we're going to have more money in our checking account than $65,000. We've now pulled in more money than we need to pay for the convention. So we're looking at probably $65 to somewhere between $65,000 and $68,000 will be left in the checking account when we're all done. And we'll be moving forward to that. When I asked for people who could give us some information on anybody that's produced political commercials, well, we're planning on running political commercials for the party throughout the entire state. A limited market, but I'm going to present a business plan and we have somebody that'd be interested in funding that. So we'll probably be running TV commercials to support the party and get our brand out. Hopefully that'll bring in at least another 100,000 registered libertarians, more members, more donors, and continue to grow the party. In terms of dedication, how many people here would quit a high-paying full-time job to get onto a part-time basis to have more hours to work on this party? She did. It's like when she went down the list of committees that she's put together to get things working again, she's got a very proven track record of results. We have more money in the bank, things are functioning, everything is working again now. There's some areas that we still need to improve on and get more work done, and it's just a matter of time till we get that done. It's like I used the sports analogy when I sent out that last email that I did a broadcast on of like why you should vote for Mimi. It's like if this was a sports team, the big game is coming up in 2020. Think of it as the Super Bowl or the World Series. Well, you people are going to decide who you want to lead the team. You have a star player with impeccable track record, greater dedication than anybody I know. I've never worked in any volunteer organization that has had a chair that even comes close to what Mimi is. And even in my working career, I've only ever met one other manager that even comes close to Mimi. We're both engineers. We have this mindset, if it's broke, we'll fix it. If we need something built, we'll build it. She's just results driven. It's like if you want the best person possible, there she is. So I urge you all to vote for Mimi. You can't go wrong with her.
All right. Okay. Time is up for the nominating and seconding speeches. Our parliamentarian has a randoms distribution about who's going to go in what order to speak. Who is it? Okay.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay. Joshua, Mimi, and Robert, and two of the candidates have asked to speak from the dais up here, so everybody should come forward, and you have up to each to 10 minutes to speak. So we'll start with, I'm already drawing a blank. Joshua. I'm getting old, sorry. Okay, Joshua, up to 10 minutes.
Thank you, guys. Hello, Libertarians of California. I'm Joshua Smith. I wrote my speech because I wanted it to be perfect for you. First off, I want to say thank you so much for being here today to show that you care about the direction of our state affiliate and a future for libertarian ideals and candidates. I too believe that it's important to be involved and help guide a party that has a chance at success in breaking down the outdated and unchallenged two-party system. For far too long, those with libertarian leanings have been trampled on by a majority that is either ignorant of freedom or does not want it at all. Libertarians are the only ones who can change that But to do so, we have to be bold. We have to reach for the stars and show that we aren't here to just play political patty cake. We have to take our wins unapologetically in a system that is slanted towards our failure. If we won't, then no one will, and the state continues to grow. To achieve this, I proposed a strategy that I think will help our party attain the next level in our fight. First, I want to talk about candidate recruitment and education. We have some of the best and brightest candidates and activists right here in California. But we aren't the Leviathan of the Republicans and Democrats, and we need all hands on deck to prepare for these campaigns. The best way for the state affiliate to help is to train candidates to be more successful. We have the means to set up a training program that gets our candidates ready for the uphill battle that is taking on the two old parties. We can make training videos on campaign finance, building a team, writing a campaign plan, finding volunteers and donors, etc. This can be centrally located for our candidates to find very easily. Building that infrastructure is going to make candidates feel a lot more comfortable running with an L next to their name and makes our recruiting that much easier. I've spent time calling candidates around the country and convincing them to run for office, and having been trained on how to do so by Michael Pickens, I have no doubts that I'll be able to achieve success in our state. I hope to train other activists so that we have a network of outreach for our candidates and our prospective candidates. Next, I want to talk about legislative coalitions. This is something I've been banging the drum about for the last 6 weeks, as loud as I can. It's no secret that we need donors and members to operate as a state political party. This doesn't happen organically. People want to see that we are working towards their goals and that we're serious about changing things. I believe that one of the best ways to go about this is to build legislative coalitions, much like the Decriminalize Denver movement, wherein 4 political parties have come together to work on legislation that would legalize psilocybin that has been proven to help with mental health problems. There are millions in the state of California, and every single one of those people sees eye to eye with the Libertarian Party on at least one issue. If we start showing that we care about their issue enough to stamp the party name on it at the state's capital, or to lobby against it or for it in front of the state's government, then they might start listening to us about other issues. As libertarians, at times we forget that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you will never feel more supported than you do when you honestly listen to the fears of others. Not only does this start to show people that we're serious, but it leaves a paper trail that shows the state what we believe in. I've already been building a team of people that are good at legislation and lobbying. Sometimes all you got to do is ask. I believe this step in my plan will get us libertarian victories, even if we never have the chance to get somebody elected like Jeff Hewitt again. It's another front for us to fight on, and one that is largely untapped in Libertarian of California Party. Lastly, I'd like to talk about activist continuity. We are a party built on the slowly breaking backs of the hardest working activists in the country, but activist burnout is real. It happens every day that someone who was a valuable teammate with invaluable knowledge leaves after fighting tooth and nail to no avail. With them go the ideas and successes they've had. We need to build an open source system on the website where activists can blog about their successes for the other LPC activists to reference. Data sharing is a huge part of what we need to be better at, and hearing directly from people like Boomer Shannon through blogs about what works is much easier when you're planning a campaign than trying to figure out on your own with no help. This information can be stored literally forever and for every activist in the LPC to read at any time. One of my favorite sayings is teamwork makes the dream work. We've all heard all weekend that it takes a team to win these elections, and having activist continuity is going to be extremely helpful in that aspect. So in closing, I'd like to quote Sun Tzu from The Art of War. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. We have to build a real solid infrastructure in this party and be ready to fire on all cylinders if we ever want to have 20 Jeff Hewitts in the state. And believe me when I say we need 20 Jeff Hewitts and 20 Boomer Shannons if we ever want to truly roll back the size and scope of the California's intrusive government. If we're not going to do that now, then we might as well hang it up and submit to the Socialist Republic of California. But I'm certainly not interested in that. I'm a media chaser, a fundraiser, an activist, a candidate advocate, a coalition builder, and I quite literally eat, sleep, and breathe liberty on a daily basis. And I'm here asking you today to give me the opportunity to bring that fire intensity to our state party. You have some very great options today, but you have one option that's ready to take us to the next level and jump the S-curve. Please join me in making that a reality. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, the next candidate is Mimi Robson.
Well, I admit I did not write a speech, so it probably won't be perfect, because I didn't have time. I've been really busy this weekend. But I just want to first just start by saying, what brings me here today? Why am I doing this? In 2016, I got a phone call from Ted Brown asking if I would run for state senate. I had never talked to him before in my life. I've been an activist for years. But when he asked me if I'd run against the incumbent, most of you have heard the story, but it's true. I said yes. By the time I got home from driving home from work, I told my husband. He said, "You're crazy." I ran for state senate in 2016. I was right in on the original ballot, the primary. I made it to the top 2 because there was nobody else but the incumbent and me. And I decided I was going to run a serious candidate, or run as a serious candidate. But what I found is that we didn't, as a state party, have systems in place to help people that were serious. So I was able to raise $14,000. I was able to get 22% with no name recognition. I got 50,000 votes in that election. But what I learned from that is that there was a lot of dysfunction at the state level for the party. We weren't functioning well. Minutes hadn't been written for months. We hadn't even had the previous convention minutes written and approved when I became a secretary. So I worked to fix that. I did a lot of work. I'm an engineer. That's what I do. I see problems. I try to make things work. That's why Steve and I get along so well. So I worked very, very hard, and my biggest goal was to be sure that we could support our candidates. I ran again in 2018. I made it through the top 2, again, in a contested primary, which is the first time a third-party candidate has done that in the state since top 2. And I didn't think I would. I was more surprised than anybody else. But I also ran for chair because I got another Ted Brown phone call that he was moving out of state, and he and others thought that I was the person that should be the chair. None of this is anything that I had ever set out to do. This wasn't my life goal. But once I said yes, I had to give it my all. So I ran for state chair last year. I ran as good of a campaign as I could. I ended up getting about 27.5% in the general election. But during that time, I was still working first and foremost on the party. As Steve said, when I became chair, I quit my job of 24 years at a consulting engineering firm to do my own consulting, so I have more time to do party business, to work on things, to make phone calls, to fundraise. We've fundraised more in the last year. The Candidate Support Committee in this year, since I became chair, has raised 300% more than the 5 years before that combined. We have more money in the bank right now than we've had since 2009, because that's as far as the records go back, by a lot. And the day after convention, we're going to have more money in the bank than we did the day before the convention, which has never happened. Usually we write a $30,000 check for the convention. We have no money left. That's not what's happening. As I said before, we raised about $10,000 last night in the banquet, but we've also raised an additional almost $4,000 just on this weekend alone, and we walked into the convention already with a profit. That's another thing. We'd have conventions, and conventions are for party business. That's what people are here for. And every single person in this room has taken time out of their lives to come here and to be an activist and to be part of this. And I applaud you all, because you know what? Looking at this room, we have more delegates, we have more new faces than we've had since I came in. Our voter registration has soared. And as chair, I'm going to steal something from Nick Sarwark. When I first heard him say the chair is the least important person in the room, I'm like, what is he talking about? What I've learned this year is that although the chair is the face of the party, although I have been able to get, the opportunity to do an op-ed bi-weekly that's seen by many, many people, they're somewhat the face of the party, but what they really do is they're a facilitator to get things done, to get volunteers. I have more committees, they're working committees, they're working well. And when people come in as a volunteer, I don't tell them, we need this, this, and this done. I say to them, what do you want to do? What interests you? Because that's what you have to look at. If you get somebody in and they say that I'm interested in this and you want them to do something else, they're going to walk away. If you simply ask somebody for $25 a year to be a member and you never engage them, they're going to walk away. The reason why our membership has stayed somewhat stagnant is because although we're getting lots and lots of new members right now, there were members that walked away, and we have lots of people lapsing. That's what we have to change. We have to get people engaged. Once they come in, they need to get engaged. They need to feel like they're part of this. Everybody in this party is here for a reason, because we want to see a world set free in our lifetime. And that's why you guys are here. I want you to feel empowered to do what your part is in that. I don't want to tell you what to do. I have goals for myself. I have goals for the party. I don't have set goals for anybody until I talk to them and I know what they want to do. I'm not going to tell them what to do. And I think also we have to understand we're all individuals. We're libertarians. We can't all agree. But we agree on enough to be here today. And I want to, in the next 2 years, keep this growth going. I want to get more people engaged. I want to get more people, more registered voters, organically. They're going to come, and with that growth, we're going to get more members and more donors. And that's what I've been doing. Maybe I do it behind the scenes. Maybe you guys don't see what I do. I don't usually like to talk about myself. I really don't. It's not my comfort level. I'm not somebody that likes to talk about myself, but right now I guess I have to, so I'm doing it. But I don't have that much else to say except for I came in mid-year in somebody else's term last year. I came in, and although Ted was a fabulous chair in many, many ways, I found many problems that needed to be fixed. We are now at a point where we are in growth mode. I have worked so well with the officers and with people in this party. Steve and I are a team. Everybody says this thing, oh yeah, whenever I talk to Mimi, I'm talking to her for hours. I talk to everybody for hours because I want to hear what everybody wants to say. I want to hear people. And anybody in this room, if you call me, you'll probably be on the phone with me for an hour. I spend a lot of time on the phone because I always answer it. I'm always there for people. And I think everybody in this room knows that. I want to have this term, and by the way, this is the last time I'm running for chair. I'm letting you guys know. I will not be running for chair again because in 2 years I'm running for city council, and I'm going to put all of my time and energy into that. And I think I can win. And I want to be another Jeff Hewitt, and I want to be a win, and I want to be a city council person in Long Beach, which is one of the larger cities in the state. And I want to win, and I want to spend the next 2 years making sure we have lots of people that are ready to win. I want to help them. I want to have treasury services. I want to have outreach. We've got the affiliate support committee now, which is going to be reaching out to the counties where our growth really happens. It's the counties. It's not the state that grows the party. I want to support the counties. I want to support the candidates. I think I've done that in the last year, but in the next 2 years, I want to take it to the next level. And I want to have a party set up for the next chair, if I'm elected, the next chair that comes in 2 years, to come into a political party that is a true force, one that has, I'm saying we have $65,000 in the bank. That's great. That's more than we've had ever. That's not enough to support our candidates. We need to get into the 6 figures. We need to be a real political party of individuals that want freedom. We don't want to be like other political parties that are statists, right? They run their thing just like the government. We don't want to do that. We want to be a party of individuals that grow, get people elected, and do it the right way, do it the principled way. We are the party of principles. So, I'm sure I haven't used my whole 10 minutes yet. I used more than I thought I would. But I'm probably going to cede the rest of my time, but I really do hope that you'll give me the opportunity to continue what I've been doing for the last year and the year before that as secretary, and work with all of you in this room, and we are going to make this happen, and we are going to have electeds like Jeff Hewitt, who, by the way, I said this before, but the proudest day of my last year was being in that room when Nick Sarwark swore him in. I cried. It was amazing. I want to cry more at these things, so please, if you think I'm doing a good job, if you think I continue to do I will continue, please vote for me. We've got 2 good candidates besides me. We're not going to be in bad hands, but I believe that I've got a lot of the solutions we need right now, and I think that I can make this happen. So please give me a chance. Thank you.
And our next candidate is Robert Imhoff.
All right, that's a tough act to follow, isn't it? So this can be a blend. I mean, everybody keeps telling me, be happy, be sugar-coated, say everything is great, tell everybody you're great. So I'm going to get a blend of great, but to also remind you, people run for offices when they feel like things are not always great and they could be better. They're not bad by any stretch of the means. The first thing I want to talk about is the counties. And again, this might come off a little terse, but in my opinion, the counties come first in this state. The State Executive Committee is here to serve at the pleasures of all of the counties and the county's officers. So, you know, again, this is a bit terse, but I feel offended that the counties are relegated to an affiliate committee. That implies that everything else that the state is doing is not for the sake of the counties. We have a volunteer committee. That volunteer committee is all about feeding to the counties. We have a membership committee. That committee is all about feeding membership to the counties. We have a candidate support committee. It's all about recruiting and working with counties to get the best candidates out there. So why we need to have a special handler committee for the counties, the affiliate committee, seems redundant if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing at the state level, and that's making sure we have 50 fully affiliated counties fully working together through each other and through the state. So, sorry, I'm starting off on a very somber tone there, but I wanted to make that a little clear up front. So there's 3 things that I think about the chair. The chair manages the goals. The chair might have some goals that they want to set, but ultimately the 15 people on the executive committee, they come together and they set goals. And how do we set goals here in California? We have the program. The program is not something that you simply all get together and say, this is what our program's going to be, and then it's a checkbox and you move on. That program sets the tone for what you're going to be doing and how you're going to be helping the counties for the next year. So I was a little taken aback when it was suggested that we should remove the program, the one thing that helps actually identify our motives to do great things. So why is that important? Again, it was mentioned in somebody else's nomination speech that you know, the chair really is here to manage. The chair cannot be a bottleneck at all. So the chair sets up committees, make sure that they're there, make sure that the reports are coming back. But should the chair be micromanaging the committees? Should the membership committee give a letter that they want to send out to the chair, and then it's up to the chair to decide to send that out? Or is it up to the chair of the membership committee to say, I did everything right, and I want to send out this letter to the members? Where's the trust in our executives, in the executive committee, if everything that's a last decision has to go through the chair? We need to remove that from this position. We need to have a chair that says, you're smart, you know what you're doing, go do it. And through that, I think of a great model, which is the think, plan, submit model. A lot of people come to the executive committee, either on the committee or directly to the committee with suggestions, and they say, I need you to stop what you're doing and do this thing that I think is a great idea. And I want to come back to them and say, that is a good idea. You need to think up that idea. You need to come up with a plan for that idea, and then you submit that plan to the executive committee, and then we all decide if that makes sense. So yes, this does sound structured and ordered, but you know what? There's a $700 million a year tomato canning manufacturer right here in California that uses this model. It's called the self-management model. And we don't have to run our party as anarchist, as an anarchy party of how we do business, even though that's our ultimate goal in politics. But if we have a self-management policy where all of our at-large, all of our officers, they all have the freedom to think up something, plan it, submit it, and then have everybody execute on it. I think that's the missing ingredient. Transparency is a huge thing that I think we can certainly work on here in the party, and I think I have a great track record with transparency. A lot of people saw our 2018 perspectives from Santa Clara County that was floating around the room. That's showing you this is the money you gave us, this is how we spent your money, this is the results we got from that money, and this is what we plan to do next year. And it doesn't get much more transparent than that. And that wasn't me that did that as the treasurer of Santa Clara County. That was the group that came together. We did a lot of great things there. As treasurer, I increased our revenues year over year 1,300%. I increased our candidate support fund 8,200%. As treasurers, they're responsible for the membership of the counties. I helped get our membership up 52% year over year. I get to take credit for that as the treasurer, but ultimately it was the 10 executive members of our committee and the 40 some odd volunteers that work at least 5 hours per week nonstop in that county to have that happen. So that doesn't happen by one person doing it. That happens by leadership and goals and having trust in all of the activists and volunteers in this party. So again, with the transparency, we should be applauding ourselves more. There's a lot of things that you guys might not know has happened with this party. For example, in Ventura County, how many people know that we successfully stopped a sewage bill, but then we had to do all these recalls and all this other stuff there? You know, that was a great work by our libertarians in the Ventura County. Kings County, they wanted to eminent domain a hot dog stand, and it was the Libertarian Party of Kings County that saved a hot dog stand that had been there for like 60 years. And they attacked and went head on to the city council in Hanford. They even got somebody recalled in Hanford. It was the Libertarian Party. We should all know about this stuff. This goes into to my second thing, which is marketing. We need to increase the marketing. We get more people to decide to become registered libertarians when they keep hearing our name and keep hearing great things next to the name. Me doing that op-ed is a great example of great marketing. That's certainly going to get more people to register. In Santa Clara County, a big thing that we got a huge push. We're up 8% registered voters just in the first 60 days of 2019. How did we do that? We stopped a $450 million bond measure in San Jose on November 6th. It was the Libertarian Party. It wasn't the Libertarian Party. Yeah, it's the clap. That's great. It wasn't the Libertarian Party and the Howard Jarvis Tax Foundation and this group and that group. It was the Silicon Valley Taxpayers Association and the Libertarian Party. It was those two groups that got together and said, no, we're going to dig our heels in and make this one stop. So we had Mark Hinkle. He was going to all these forums talking about how bad it was. I was going to these forums and talking how bad they were. Our chair was writing op-eds and was giving quotes to the media and getting in front of cameras saying, you know, how bad this measure was. By the way, it was a measure to say they're going to take $450 million of our tax dollars and give it to the city, and then the city was going to buy land and then give that land for free to developers and then give them the money that they took from taxpayers to build the stuff and then hand it over to them. Meanwhile, they have developers who own land and have money that just want to build low-income housing, but then the city wouldn't get credit for it. So they wanted this $450 million so they can get credit for doing something the community already wants to do on its own. But we put a stop to that. We put a stop to a $49 million bond measure for a school board that was redundant. So in total, the Santa Clara County has $500 million that we saved our community last year, and that was through all of our efforts. That was not through anything getting bottlenecked through our chair. It gave us all the freedom to do what we need to do. Lost opportunities. How much time do I got? 2 minutes? Minute 10. lost opportunities that I absolutely want to talk about that we can no longer lose sight of. And again, I'm sorry that this sounds tense and not upbeat and happy, but there's just some simple fixes that we can do, and then this party's going to really pop. And we have to, even if you don't vote for me, you still need to be aware that these things are happening in the party. We had somebody that was is an at-large member that was part of the Liberty or the Leadership Institute. Does everybody know the Leadership Institute? Libertarian think tank? So we had a staffer, an at-large, with the Leadership Institute. How did we leverage that on our executive committee? We didn't. He came to us, there's a workshop, we should go to it. It was ignored. There's a webinar, we should sign up for it. We ignored him. Hey, they want to come and talk to us. We ignored him. We had another person that was a marijuana lawyer on our executive committee. What did we do to leverage the fact that he was on our executive committee? Nothing. So after a year, he resigned. He's like, I'm here, I'm ready to help. I can help you with writs and mandates. I can help you with pot law. I can help you with defense stuff if that's an issue. Sorry, it's the bad news, but thank you very much. Please vote for me if you want all those things changed. Thank you very much.
All right, it's going to be time to vote. How many people, it's your first convention? Okay, you're going to, that's great. Okay. Well, you're going to learn soon about the conga line, so we'll explain that pretty soon. I think we have a new credentials report, though. No, we don't have a new credentials report. Okay.
Nobody new checked in since we started, since we did the last numbers? Because we had a motion to do that.
That was what was discussed previously, yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, while she's checking that, let's talk about the voting. So, the candidates are Joshua Smith, Mimi Robson, Robert Imhoff, and always in a libertarian election, none of the above. So, we also have a method called ranked choice voting, which is done for these elections. So, if you vote though, if you vote for none of the above, that's it. You can't vote for any of the candidates. But when you vote for candidates, you can vote for up to all three candidates and you rank them. So you can vote for your first choice, your second choice, and your third choice, or you could choose just to vote for one candidate, or you could just choose to vote for your first and second. It's all up to you. But the goal of this is to avoid multiple ballots and to elect a chair after just the one vote. So we will be doing that very soon. There are index cards at the end of each table for you to vote. And again, if you're voting for NODA, just put NODA. If you're voting for a candidate, put as many candidates as you want to vote for and rank them on the card. So you can get started doing that. We're going to have a vote counting team, and has that been determined? Okay. Okay. So the team of you're going to have to be checked to make sure you're listed as a voting delegate in order to turn in your ballot. But we're going to have the conga line, which is a bunch of people just lining up. And in fact, let's start with the, when you start, we can start with the old timers who can show you what the conga line is like. And then if you haven't seen it before, you can fall right in behind that group. And then after you vote, you want to get out of the way. So, okay, where's it going to start? Okay, we'll start the conga line over here. And then after you've voted, move off in this direction so there's no overlap of people, so there's no confusion. You could please be sure that you were credentialed before the actually before you turn in the votes. Let's make sure we have the credentials report. So don't turn them in yet. I didn't hear that. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay. Okay, so the other thing is to be prepared. Yeah, well, where'd the gavel go? Oh, there it is. Okay, to make sure that your voting is noted, there's going to be a puncher into your delegate badge as you go by and vote. So keep your badge out that says your name and whether you're in the north, central, or south, that one, and then it'll be punched each time you vote. Oh, you can't hear me? This is a weird mic, so I'm sorry, I don't... Okay, so when you go to vote, take out your badge that has your name and whether you're in the north, central, and south, and it'll be punched as you go by, so we'll keep track of how many times you're voting, well, for each office. Yeah. Yeah, we'll know in a minute, hopefully. Yeah. Yeah, this doesn't seem to be logical here for some reason. I like those big ones with the, yeah.
We're just going to do a little mic check here. If you can hear my voice, can you raise your hand? Just raise your hand real quick if you can hear my voice. So what you're telling me is Ted just needs to project a little bit more is what needs to happen.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Well.
They don't help themselves by
No. Okay. Okay. Our secretary has an updated credentials report. Up here. Come here. Come here.
Our new delegate count is 136. We need 68. No, I'm sorry, 69 for a majority. $90 for a supermajority. 14 for a standing second.
Okay, start voting. Come along, go around. When you're done voting, go off in this direction, and so we don't mix the lines or anything. What? Oh.
If you want to try, Alicia,
Yeah.
I would be happy to.
Okay.
6. You're wondering 6 what? 6 chocolate orphans. Chicks.
If there's anyone who has not voted, you need to come do it now. We're at the end of the line. We're approaching last call for the votes. Is there anyone else in the room who has not yet cast their ballot? Come to the tellers right now.
They had the Saturday badge. For a while they ran out of the pre-printed and they were going to handwrite. And so I don't know if those 3 people got sorted out with credentials to make sure they were registered today. So make sure those, and they were part of the San Bernardino crowd. So let's make sure they got sorted out.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, just make sure. Okay, has everybody voted who intends to vote? Anybody else, please come forward. If there's any problems with your badge or anything involving credentialing, let us know as well. Sorry. Otherwise, they're going to start counting any minute. Okay. Okay. Going once, going twice. Voting is closed. The balloting count will begin. And then the firm of Price Waterhouse will certify the results. I guess there's not enough agenda to just continue with the, can't really do much else until we know. Like we have like resolutions or national. You know what, that's not bad.
I don't know if any of the chair candidates will turn around and run.
That's true. I thought they've already spoken. People will be bring forward if they spoke again for any length of time if they're going to run for a different office.
Remember what I said before?
Yeah, exactly. That's good enough. I don't know about this kind of mic. Then I did that and there was some kind of feedback or something. I'm gonna have to stand back and talk louder. That's probably what I should do. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm sure that's fine. It's a matter of getting people's attention here. There's a point where you think that works. Okay. Yes, sir. Well, actually, we were talking about like nominating and seconding speeches for other offices. Yeah. There's also a question about whether anybody who loses one will want to run for the other. I guess we'd always reopen.
So if that happens, we'll reopen nominations.
We can reopen nominations. Well, it's going to take so long to do the ballot count. I think we have time to do all those speeches. Yes. If we don't eat lunch, we'll be here tomorrow. Right. Okay. Yes.
We can reopen to allow unsuccessful chair candidate to run.
Okay, yeah.
And ask them if they're okay with that.
All right. Okay. Okay. May I have your attention, please? Okay, it's going to take a while for the ballot count, so we were thinking about going on to the nominating and seconding speeches for vice chair. But the proviso is that if anybody wants to run who loses from the chair's race, we can reopen the nominations afterwards. But I think we need to move along business for the and hear the speeches nominating and seconding for the other offices. Is there any objection to going forward with that? Hearing none, we'll move forward to nominations for the office of vice chair. Now, previously, we had a northern vice chair and a southern vice chair who were responsible for activities in the north and the south. That was changed last year to have one vice chair and then the three regional coordinators. So the new duties of the vice chair are to stand solemnly behind the chair while the chair gives any kind of crazy statement possible. Oh, sorry, that's the Vice President of the United States. For the, yeah, for the.
We call it the pinch position.
No, we're talking about nominations. We're not going to close nominations. Yeah, we're not going to close nominations. Okay, so anyway, so actually the vice chair is to be the assistant to the chair now. There's just the one vice chair. So, all right, so nominations are open for vice chair. Please step forward. Again, 5 minutes. No, this is just the names to start with. Just the names to start with. Nominations for vice chair. We just want to move forward here. Yes. Is that on?
It is now, yeah, absolutely. So do you think maybe we could wait, can we make a motion to wait until after the chair votes are counted in case any of the chair candidates would like to run for vice chair?
You don't, no, you can still be added to the list then.
Okay.
We're not going to close nominations.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, nominations for vice chair. Who would like to nominate someone? Yeah, let's keep that on.
I nominate Dr. Mister. Kenneth Brent Olson.
Okay. All right. Other nominations for vice chair? Okay. Okay, there's nominated and second. Well, okay, plenty of people are seconding. Okay, if there's no other nominees to start with, let's have a nominating speech. Up to 5 minutes for nominating and seconding for Brent Olson.
Oh, I thought we were going to wait until after all nominations.
No, we'll go forward as much as we can go forward with. Okay, nominating speech for Brent Olson and seconding. 5 minutes.
Are we not waiting for the teller committee report?
No, we want to move business along here.
Does the record reflect that we're leaving it open in case?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, nominations for Olson. Okay, timing.
Ready?
Yeah.
I'm nominating Dr. Kenneth Brent Olson. He has done an amazing job as Northern Vice Chair. He has grown his counties greatly. When he came in, there was hardly any counties that were affiliated there, recognized organization. He's put in pro tems, but more than that, he has actually already been a vice chair. Of the 2 vice chairs, which part of their job is to help the chair, we've spent countless hours working on the party together. He has amazing energy. He's a hard worker. He wants to grow this party. He has many of the same visions as I do. He's worked closely with the treasurer, the secretary. He can work with anybody. He's a great guy. I don't know anybody that says anything bad about him. And I think that he would be a fabulous vice chair and somebody, if I happen to win, I would love to work for, or work with, whatever. Maybe. And I'm going to cede the rest of my time to Mr. County Supervisor Hewitt.
Yes. All right. Thank
you. Okay, so I came up with something for AOC when she runs again. AOC is A-OK. Let's send her to Oklahoma, right? No, that's. But we don't know Dr. Olson as Dr. Olson. We know him as KBO. He has way too many names. So KBO is Obi-Wan. Okay, remember that. That one's. No, the reason why I think this guy is really good for this, and this is why I nominated him to actually be the alternative for District 4 on the LNC, is KBO is really the kind of guy that you can count on for anything. You know, if I get too busy and I can't make a report, which I've done it a couple times, no comment, back there from the pink hair. And, you know, he'll step up and he'll actually do a really good report and things like that. He's also someone that's worked his tail off as a Northern vice chair. I don't know how many new county affiliates he started. I believe only 6. He's only started 6. If there's anybody in here that started 6, then, you know, I'm in awe. But nevertheless, the guy has a great sense of humor. He's fun to travel with. Of course, he's got some... and they're for sale. That's a teaser. No. But I would really, you know, I don't know if he's running against somebody else or he's running against Noda or whoever else, but even if he was running against Ronald Reagan or Jesus Christ, I would say put your vote for KBO. He's the man. Thank you.
Yeah, Mimi's purse seems to be missing there. Is there anyone with light fingers, or did she just lose it? What's going on? Oh, she got it. Okay, she got it. Okay. Anyway, what Jeff mentioned about that Olson Reagan Jesus race. Now that would be interesting to see what the ranked choice voting would be on that one. Okay, so. Sorry. Yeah, this is a weird microphone. I apologize if people can't hear me there. Okay, so the nominated candidate for vice chair for up to 10 minutes, Brent Olson.
Well, I really hope somebody else is nominated to run against me, because I think it's a travesty when we don't have contested elections. And I know a lot of people who don't like me, so I know Mimi says she doesn't know anybody, but I know a lot of people who don't like me, but that's okay. I'm not gonna stand here and name names. But I do accept the nomination for vice chair, and I ask you all to support me. Over the past 2 years, I've worked very closely with Mimi, our chair, our current chair. I hope our continuing chair. And I've worked especially closely with her over the past year. So even when she was secretary, I worked very closely with her, but over the past year since she took over as chair, I started taking on less of the regional kind of workload and more of the vice chair kind of workload. I know a lot of people say that a vice chair is really not that important or doesn't necessarily need to do much, but really the job of the vice chair is to assist the chair. And that's something that I've really been working on. And so I think the vice chair position is actually a very important role. And I think it's a role that requires somebody with a lot of dedication and energy. It's something that I've put a lot of time into. I've assisted her in fundraising efforts, membership drives. I've also assisted with getting several committees operational. And I pledge to continue to work with her or whoever is elected chair. Whoever is elected chair. I will continue to work with that individual. And I pledge to achieve my goals, which I've spelled out. You may have seen it on Facebook if you follow social media at all, but it's my 5-point plan. First of those is what I call the Libertarian 11th Commandment. Some of you may be familiar with Ronald Reagan's 11th Commandment. So this is my own kind of libertarian version of that, so it's not really a commandment, but more of a pledge to speak no ill of a fellow libertarian, because we're all in this party working together. We're all in this party working together, and we can only advance if we do that together. When we stand up here and attack somebody or say bad things about somebody who's working in this party, working in the same direction, then we're bashing a potential fellow libertarian candidate who may run for office and may win, or they may lose because of some of the crap that we've been spouting about them. And that doesn't mean we always have to agree. We don't always agree, and that's okay. But we're all on the same train, going in the same direction. Some of us have different stops along the way. Second goal is, and what I'd like to do is see all of you, or as many of you as are willing, make that same pledge. The 11th, it's not a commandment, but the pledge to speak no ill of fellow libertarian. Second goal is all politics is local. We've got to look at all politics anytime we run a candidate, regardless of whether it's for President of the United States or dog catcher. We have to look at all of our elections at the local level. We are not going to win an election unless we can talk to every single voter. It just doesn't happen. We need people going door to door like Jeff Hewitt had in his campaign and making calls to the voters. We need to either directly or indirectly reach out to every single possible voter. If we don't, then you're not going to win the election. And so we have to restructure our campaigns and really train our campaign teams to look at it in that way. We can't just post up yard signs and work on social media and expect to win anything. Win. The third goal is to combine the wisdom of the elders with the the energy of the youth. We've got a lot of young activists that are out there working hard, trying to make a difference. And we've also got a lot of people who have a lot of history in this party that have a lot to contribute in terms of their experience, their wisdom, the things that they've learned worked or didn't work over the years. And I know a lot has changed over the years. I mean, we used to do everything by writing letters back and forth and have to have phone calls and face-to-face, and now we're all on the internet and social media and all that stuff. But we do need to look at what we've learned works and does not work, and get that mixed in with the energy of our young activists, who are the ones that are going out and hitting the road, hitting the pavement, getting ballots, signatures signed so we can get candidates on the ballot. Let's see, my fourth goal is money is the lifeblood of politics. If we don't get money, then we're not going to win. We need to have people win. We're not going to have candidates successful. We're not going to be successful as a party if we're not raising, not just in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, the millions of dollars. We really have to get serious about our fundraising efforts. And my fifth goal is to focus on registered libertarians. Registered libertarians are the key. I know everybody talks about party membership, but if you ask a Republican how many members they have in their party, they're not going to tell you the number of dues-paying members that they have in their party. If you talk to a Democrat, they're not going to tell you the number of dues-paying members that they have in their party. What they're going to tell you is the number of registered Republicans or registered libertarians they have. Or not libertarians, registered Democrats. So what we need to focus on is increasing the number of registered libertarians. That needs to be our primary focus, because they're the people that are going to be voting. We're a very small minority, us dues-paying members. And I think that being a dues-paying member is kind of a natural outgrowth of exciting the base, getting people excited and motivated to be a part of this growing party. And it is growing. It's the fastest growing party in the state of California. In fact, it's the only growing party in the state of California. So we need to focus on really getting those numbers up. I agree with Robert. We need to see the number of registered voters that are registered libertarian at least 2% within the by 2020. But I'd love to see us hit an even higher goal. I always say shoot high, or aim high. Anyway, I will cede the rest of my time. Thank you.
Okay, I've been informed that our very efficient ballot counters have a result from the chair's election, and it was a win on the first ballot. Please step forward. Oh, it's here. Very good. The results are Mimi Robson, 92 votes. Joshua Smith, 24 votes. Robert Imhoff, 17 votes. And someone who was just not satisfied, no to 1 vote. So, congratulations. Mimi Robson is reelected as chair of the Libertarian Party of California. And I return the gavel to you, Madam Chair.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. If you know me, you know that I sometimes end up crying when I'm really happy or really scared or wondering what I just did. No, joking. And so I'm a little teary-eyed right now, but thank you so much for your support. And over the next 2 years, I want us to all work together. I want all of us to work together and be able to do all of the things that we envision this party can do. And thank you. So, thank you. And I want to work with the other two candidates because I think you're both amazing people. So I hope that we can all work together. Okay. Yes. So now at the next order of business, we still have nominations open for vice chair. We've had one nomination so far. Are there any additional nominations for vice chair? So right now, Dr. Kenneth Brent Olson, Jesus, is nominated. Are there any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, we are going to go to a vote. It's the same procedure as last time. Oh, yes. Oh.
Yeah. Madam Chair, I move we go to a voice vote for either Olson or none of the above.
Okay, is that seconded? Any objections?
Madam Chair, just so that's actually the default.
Oh, well. I was just crying. Give me a break. Okay, so we are going to go to a voice vote. NOTA is still always an option in the Libertarian Party. So all in favor of Kenneth Brent Olson for vice chair, say aye. Aye. All in... I don't think she's a delegate. All those in favor of NOTA, say aye. Aye. Kenneth Brent Olson is our new vice chair. And I look forward to working with him and still talking to him on the phone all the time. Just real briefly, his wife and my husband both say the same thing. We talk more than we talk to our spouses, so. Okay, so our next order of business will be to go to the next election, which is for secretary. And I am actually going to ask the body if you mind me handing this gavel back to Ted Brown again. Any objections? You're taking nominations for secretary.
Okay. Nominations are open for the office of secretary. Please step forward to the mic.
I would like to nominate Paul Vallandigham, and I always say his name wrong, for secretary.
Yes. Okay. Very good. And is there a second? Second. Okay. Any other nominees for secretary?
If she'll have it, I nominate Jennifer Imhoff, who doesn't look like she wants it. Fair enough. Excellent choice.
Okay. All right. Are there any other nominations for secretary? Hearing none, the nominee is Paul Vallandigham. Paul, up to 10 minutes, wherever you might be.
May I be recognized?
Yes, Starchild.
In view of the fact that we don't have any other candidates for position, I move that we allow up to 3 minutes for a speech.
Wait, for what?
Up to 3 minutes for speech instead of up to 10 minutes.
Okay, well, hold on. How long is your speech? The candidate has a slightly longer speech than that.
Well, then I move that we extend equal time for somebody to speak for NOTA. If we're going to do that, I don't think it's really necessary, but it seems, you know, when we didn't have enough time to get through, you know, bylaws and we're going to be debating a contentious platform issue, to take 10 minutes when it's an uncontested race just seems unnecessary to me.
The rules say that he has up to 10 minutes, so that's a move for the suspension of the rules.
Correct.
And so, is there a second? And what's our, do we need the standing second for that? Yeah, okay. Yes, we need up to 14 people to second that motion. Please stand if you wish to second that motion. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, okay, it's moved and seconded to suspend the rules to, well, is it to limit the time or to give NOTA equal time?
To limit the time, it's like it was more time.
Okay, to limit the time, I believe, to 3 minutes for the speech for secretary.
Request for information.
Yes.
How long did Paul say he was going to speak?
6 or 7 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor of suspending the rules for that purpose, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Fails? Paul.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity of allowing me to show what a poor public speaker I am. I'll try and do the abbreviated cliff notes here. Why the hell would anybody want to run for Secretary of the Libertarian Party of California? That's a question that I was actually asked at the last executive committee meeting. And it's a very good question. Why would anybody want to run for LPC Secretary?
Insanity.
That's a good point. People seek elected offices and organizations for a variety of reasons. One person's told me it looks great on a resume, but given the fact that I'm 60 years old, I'm not really interested in starting a career, and that's not why I'm running. During the course of posting the Fantastic Five memes on Facebook, one person who didn't like one of our campaign slogans made a comment suggesting that I might be power hungry. Does the LPC secretary have more power than anybody else on the exec committee? Just one vote. Is there more power than that in the secretary position? I've read through the entirety of our bylaws, convention rules, and operating procedures manual, highlighting every occurrence of the word secretary, and organizing my own chart of every power the secretary has with the deadlines involved, so I have an efficient reference to ensure I meet those deadlines. From my point of view, the word power doesn't describe what the secretary has. The phrase that does come to mind is a lot of work. There's a lot of fame involved in the position of LPC secretary. I suppose in Libertarian Party circles there might be a little bit, but when you compare it to movie stars and political celebrities, I'd rate it about a 1 on a scale of 1 to 10. Is there a lot of money involved in being LPC secretary? Well, I haven't seen any evidence of that. For as far as I can tell, the only thing involved with money is you get to spend more from your own bank account. So if the motivation to run for LPC secretary isn't power or fame or money, why would anybody want to run for LPC secretary? I can't speak for others, but I can tell you why I am running for the position. I'm running because I believe that when you join a volunteer organization, and we are a volunteer organization, you have a duty to the other members and to yourself to volunteer. I have a history of volunteering in a variety of positions in a number of organizations, both political and liberty-oriented and public service-oriented, that I've shared on Facebook and at this convention. In many of those cases, I volunteered simply because nobody else would. I believe I've done a good job in every one of those positions, fulfilling my duties with care, diligence, and honor. I believe I have the experience and the personality to fulfill the role of LPC secretary in a similar manner, and I believe I have the sound judgment to make good decisions on the executive committee. Many of you might not know me very well and might not have heard of me before I ran the Facebook campaign and provided the concept for the mailer for the Fantastic Five slate in the lead up to this convention. That's because I don't do a lot of self-promotion on a regular basis. I just quietly do the jobs that need doing behind the scenes to keep the organizations I volunteer for running in good order. Many libertarians enjoy debating more than anything else. But when there are clear, specific tasks to be done, as on the volunteer committee, where I'm the chair, I don't like to waste my time in endless debate. I prefer just to get those tasks done as efficiently as possible. The executive committee and this convention are two places where debate is both healthy and necessary. But even here, time is limited, so decisions need to be made and actions need to be taken in order to move liberty forward. In the almost 2 years I've been a member of the Libertarian Party of California, I've had the opportunity to work with some amazing people who have accomplished some amazing things. As assistant campaign manager for the Jeff Hewitt's successful run for Riverside County Supervisor, I gained valuable experience, knowledge, and skills from two amazing people. Campaign manager and current Chief of Staff Boomer Shannon, and of course, Jeff Hewitt himself. They have taken me to places I never thought were possible, most of them legal. As treasurer of the Riverside County affiliate, I've worked closely with our current LPC treasurer, Steve Haug, to impose, I hope I got that right, Haug or Hogue? Haug, excellent. I've worked with him closely to ensure FPPC compliance and to obtain liability coverage for our tabling events. In that same county treasurer role and as chair of the LPC volunteer committee, I've worked closely with Wendy Hewitt, who has been the rock, the absolute rock, that that committee depends on, in connecting potential volunteers to affiliates. Lastly, I've developed a solid working relationship with Mimi Robeson and Kenneth Bryn Olson on the volunteer committee, demonstrating to them that I am here to serve the needs of the LPC and simply get the jobs done that need doing. All of the Fantastic Five worked closely and cooperatively in the Fantastic Five campaign project. Those who've never held a committee or officer position in a volunteer organization might not be aware of how much work is involved and how much cooperation is required between people serving in those positions in order to actually get things done that are vital to the members and to the organization as a whole. I admit I'm not the most handsome man in the room, perhaps. Well, I don't know. Star Child just, I can't. You're right. You're right. I do speak my mind, and sometimes that rubs people the wrong way and gets in the way of cooperation. But I truly believe I'm trying to help the party grow out of the eternal debate club mode of operation and into a viable political force. I believe the behind-the-scenes tasks and responsibilities of the secretary position are a good fit for me, and I can contribute to the success of our party as I have in all the other organizations where I've contributed to their success in the past. Finally, although we celebrate individualism as libertarians, the Libertarian Party is not an individual. It's a group of individuals, a team. Some teams coalesce better than others and go on to achieve great things. The Fantastic Five is a team that has proven we can work together effectively to get things done for you, to build upon the foundations already laid over the past several years and begin creating a California set free, maybe even in our lifetimes. My name's Paul Vallandigham. I'm a proud member of the Fantastic Five team, and I'm the guy who gets things done. I humbly seek and would very much appreciate your vote to hire me as your servant in the position of LPC Secretary for the next 2 years. But no matter who wins, well, it's kind of given at this point, I will continue to work for and support the membership in whatever role you see fit for me to serve in, whether at the state or local level, so that together we can continue making progress toward a vibrant, electorally successful Libertarian Party of California. Thank you. 7.5 minutes, okay. Pretty close.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Paul. Now, Paul said he's not very famous, but Google his famous ancestor, Clement Vallandigham, and you'll be interested in what you see. Civil War era fellow. It's very interesting. Okay, so let's move to a voice vote again, either for Paul Vallandigham or none of the above for secretary. All those in favor of Paul for secretary, say aye. Aye. For none of the above? Aye. Either. I guess either one works, I suppose, but Paul is elected secretary. Okay, and I don't see the chair, so let's move on to nominations for treasurer. Okay. Okay, nominations for treasurer.
I nominate our current treasurer, Steve Haug.
Okay. Is there a second? Second. Okay. Are there any other nominations for treasurer? What? Okay. All right. No other nominations. Time for nominating speech for Steve. Yeah.
Nobody else wants this job because it's a really fucking hard job. And he's done a really fucking good job. That's his nominating speech.
All right. The nominee for treasurer, Steve Haug, up to 10 minutes. Oh, you're seconding?
It was already seconded, but I concur. Steve's done a great job. However, I would again move that we limit the speech to 3 minutes in the interest of time and the fact that there's no other nominees for the position.
Okay. All right. That's another move to suspend the rules for the purpose of limiting the speech to 3 minutes. We need 14 seconds to second the nomination. Second the motion. Does anyone wish to second it? Please stand up. Please stand up if you want to second the motion. We need 14 seconders. Okay, there's enough people to second the motion. All those in favor of suspending the rules to limit the speech to 3 minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Fails? Steve.
Well, I must be a little crazy because I'm a veteran, and one of the things you learn in basic training, you don't volunteer. Basic training, a sergeant asked for, need some volunteers. First guys that puts their hands up, it's like, okay, all you guys are assigned to latrine queen duty. It's like, okay. Anyway, so I'm not sure why I signed up for this other than I got ticked off with the idea of running away. I was about ready to move out of state. That's like, no, I think I want to stay here and fight. So it's like, get my butt off the sofa, stop complaining the Libertarian Party's not going anywhere, and do something to change that. Anyway, I'm also kind of a tightwad on spending money. And I think Mimi said something to the effect that engineering types don't have a sense of humor. I still drive around in a 1973 American Motors Gremlin. If you're still driving around in the same car you've had for more than 40 years, you got to have a sense of humor. But anyway, when I first showed up as treasurer, it's like, holy cow, there were no books, there were no written procedures. The handoff was a few pieces of paper, about a dozen checks or so, 2 external hard drives, and nothing. When I finally got access to the books, there were no books. It looked like a check register, income coming in, not a clue as to what it was, where it was coming from, and about a quarter of the income that was coming in, it was just uncategorized, didn't even know what it was. Well, we got a little love note from the FPPC saying you owe, I think it was $8,500 in fines because reports hadn't been filed, plus there was another 150 outstanding. So it was like I had to get my butt to work just to make books. I was very lucky, and I think you guys all are lucky, that Mimi showed up first and got a membership database cleaned up so that I could take that membership information and start putting stuff on the books to say where the income is coming from. Because if we get audited, the auditors are going to want to take a look at the books. Where are you getting your money? It's like, well, we have that recorded on our membership database. It's like, well, that's nice. Where are your books? So anyway, I've got enough detail on the books now for complete audit proof. We know where everything comes from. We can do trend analysis. And it was a hell of a lot of work just getting us this far. I got access to the books in, I think, about the second or third week of May. And it wasn't until the middle of July when I got enough of the books done back to actually the middle of 2016 to file the FPPC reports. Anyway, I've kind of automated things since then, so actually getting the reports done has been a lot easier. Anyway, I've worked with Mimi to get the due sharing working. She says, how does due sharing work? And it's like, I don't know. And she didn't know either, so we just kind of winged it to begin with. And she figured it out the hard way by doing everything by hand. I don't know how many hours she put into it to get the due sharing out. But anyway, she figured it all out the first time around. So I worked with her to essentially automate that. So now due sharing comes out every 6 months like clockwork. I put together a macro. I'm lazy. I'm actually a software person. I'd rate myself as a mediocre bean counter, but a pretty good software geek. But anyway, so I'm very big on writing tools. So what we have now for due sharing, if you want, anytime anybody wants to know why did I get my check for this amount, it's all right there on the due sharing report. I can tell you the person, the date, what was going on, and everything just to make it all happen. And I'm driving around on the Gremlin, so I'm kind of a tightwad. If we're going to spend some money, I want to get some bang for the buck. And right now we cut out a lot of useless spending that wasn't giving us anything, and we're keeping an eye on the bottom line. Now when we spend some money, it's like, what's the rate of return on that? So I'm keeping an eye on spending. And one of the things I didn't like, when I came in, the treasurer was the only person who had access to the books. So nobody else knew what was going on other than the treasurer. Well, that's all been changed. Now, the chair also has full administrative access, can do anything she wants to with the books. The Financial Standards Committee, we now have the books being audited, and that needs to be part of the culture. So anytime you come to a convention, you should always hear a Financial Standards Committee report that the books for the past year has been audited and everything is correct. And if I'm not treasurer, going forward, you should always ask for that. It's your money, and it has to be spent wisely with no funny stuff going on. Anyway, I've written up my treasurer's handbook, as I had mentioned before, my treasurer's report, because that handoff that I got, it was a learning curve. It took over a year just to figure out everything that was going on and how to make things work. I'm not going to be treasurer forever. But you got to find somebody else that's crazy enough to want to put in this much work. But anyway, going forward, actually, if somebody wants to run for a treasurer and they announce in advance, I'll have a document to give them so they can read that. It's like, this is what you have to do to make this treasurer position work. Because going forward, we can now do trend analysis. It's like, how much money comes in membership renewals, donations, where does it come from? And you can look at trends over time. If we do a mailer to fundraise, well, we can look at the impact of that coming in. And getting the FPPC reports out, it's the treasurer actually signs them. It says, under penalty of perjury. Well, I'm a sissy. I don't want to get anything pushback from the government. So when I send a report in, the beginning bank balance and the ending bank balance, they match the actual bank balance to the penny. So if we get audited, it's like, go ahead, waste my time. So anyway, going forward, I'm going to do the best job I can as treasurer, help out as much as I can, and I'm really trying to help out and get this television thing working, because doing television commercials, I think, is going to be a huge impact for the party. Just getting our message out there, I think it's going to bring in a lot of new registered voters. It's a very early stage. We haven't put together a business plan yet, and it's not going to be me doing it. It's going to be us doing it. So we want to make this happen and just do outreach. So anyway, I'm kind of glad to see with Mimi's fundraising efforts that we're on a steep upslope. The books only go back to the fourth quarter of 2009. And from 2009 to this year, the county treasury has never had more than $40,000 in it until this year for the first time. So right now we're at $65,000 and change. And with all the money that's coming in after the convention's been paid off, and I just checked my email, there's actually been more money coming in. We'll be closer to $70,000 after the convention has been paid off, and I don't think that's ever happened before. So we're on a continued upslope. With the other things we're going to be spending money on that will bring in additional funds, we'll be closing out the year with at least 6 figures easy. So we will finally be able to actually support candidates for the first time with some real funds. And actually the people that she's talking to, I'm still having this fantasy about within her next 2-year term as chair, we might see a second comma out there. And I don't think we've ever hit that level before. But what she's doing, I think that makes that a real possibility. So thank you for your vote for treasurer. I appreciate your confidence. Thank you.
All right, Steve, thank you. Okay, let's move to a vote between Steve Haug and none of the above. All those in favor of Steve Haug for treasurer, say aye. Aye. For none of the above, say aye. Steve is elected without opposition. Or should I say by either acclamation or unanimity. All right, time to break for lunch. When we return at, oh, yes, Susan. Yes.
Just remember it's the last day to get your next year's convention at a very reduced rate, and also t-shirts for sale in the back. If you haven't gotten a parking validation, if you're in the hotel, you're fine. If you register through the site, our website, but otherwise we got parking validation in the back.
How much does it cost?
$300 for platinum. It's not going to be any lower than that.
Okay, so we'll, when we return at 1:30, it will be the election of the regional coordinators, followed by at-large representatives. Yes, Sandra?
I have a question.
Yes.
Probably from the treasurer. I would like to know what the minimum amount you can pledge per month is through the website.
Is it $5 or
$5?
Is it 5 or 10?
And
Yeah,
I would like to know
how
many people here are pledging at least $5 a month already.
Yeah. Well, how many pledgers do we have of any amount? We got a few. Well, we need 100 more. 100 more pledgers in the room every month.
Money per month, you know what's coming in, you can plan ahead.
Yeah.
Pledging per month is better than once a year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are recessed until 1:30. Glad to do it.